How I handled the demons in my life. This is a true story. It happened to me. I have decided to share it with others in the hopes that it will help some other who can benefit by my experience. There was a time in my life a few years ago that I was being in contact with what some would call a demon or demons. This came about because I had felt a lack of spirituality in my life. My husband had left me and I was trying to raise 2 children by myself and was making only a minimum wage. I used to go to church, but then I stopped going because I found a man who wanted me to live with him without being married, and I felt that this was something that the other churchgoers just would not accept about me, so I was feeling a need for some spirituality in my life, and I suddenly had time on my hands, as I needed not to work anymore, and so I started reading books from the library. I was reading about spirituality, and was particularly interested in one who told of doing automatic handwriting. So I tried it and found that I was getting through, and at first I was very fascinated. I soon found out that it was not fun anymore, because these voices in my head were becoming mean, and they were just always interrupting my thoughts, and they would talk to me even without my having to have a pencil with which to write. They caused me to feel that I was going crazy, and I began to try to rid myself of them. On 4 occasions I was admitted into lock-up facilities. Bob, the man I lived with, that was so good to me and my kids, stuck with me through all of this. One time I even thought, I will go back to the church and see if the preacher can really command demons to come out of someone like me. So I did, but to no avail. They said to them to come out, but the demons remained. I went on fighting this for a couple of years, and was depressed a lot, and I tried to sleep my life away. I thought of suicide, but was too scared to do that. Then one day I found a very good book by Joel Goldsmith. I think it was called Practicing the Presence. He talked in his book about God and how that everything was God, no matter if it be someone in a body or anyone out of a body, visible or invisible. No matter, it was all God. We are to love God and all that is God. I thought about how these voices were a part of God, and even though I hated them and even feared them, I realized that since everything was a part of God, that I should love them no matter how hard it might be to do that. So shortly after reading that book, I found myself talking to my demon tormentors. I told them that I knew that they would believe me because they knew my thoughts, so they would know that it was no lie. I told them that I no longer hated or feared them. I told them that they were a part of God, and as such I was going to love them. I talked to them as though they were very naughty children. I told them that I did not want them to talk to me anymore. And also, one other thing, I told them that since I did love them, they would be allowed to hear me read the books I was planning on reading. They could listen, but were not to comment, not to talk to me at all. And lo and behold, they left me alone after that. A few years later, when I was recovered from this nightmarish time of my life, I talked to them at my own volition. I asked if they were there, and they said yes. And I asked them also had they learned anything. They thanked me for what they had learned, and they had been enlightened and were happy to tell me that they no longer were wanting to possess anyone like they had done to me. Now this may shock some who might believe that demons are to be ordered to go to the pit of hell or some such awful place as that. I would say that Jesus said for us to love our enemies, to be good to those who despitefully use us and harm us. He showed us how great forgiveness is by showing us that such love will raise one from the dead. He forgave the ones who nailed his hands to the cross. I think that his resurrection showed us not that one has to believe in a certain doctrine, but that the sheer power of love raises you from the dead. And yes, unconditional love. I believe so strongly in the power of love that I see it as the only answer to all that troubles humanity now. It is the only answer. From having read many metaphysical books, I have come to understand something about our reality and about the nature of God. I understand now how that we, like God, should be calling what is not as though it were. I have seen how that our thoughts, and yes, our fearful thoughts and our hateful thoughts, are creating a world that we can no longer remain in unless we change our conception of the world. Everything we are told is energy. We are energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So what can you do to energy except to transform it? I watch a lot of videos on YouTube where there are those who have done exhaustive research into the enemies of today, who are what they call the secret government or the Illuminati and such. But I think that perhaps I have become convinced enough that they are among us and working their nefarious plans that keep us dumbed down and easy to control. Yet I have heard enough, I think. Lest I get so engrossed in all the gory details and have to devote my life to the study of what all they do, I call a halt to any further study of what they do and have done. All that is necessary is to know their names. Also to have a picture of them would be good as well. That way we can have a database, a website, which those of us who will do the only thing that will work can go to and simply send them love unconditionally. This I believe they really don't want you to do. They can only be powerful because they are believed in and feared and hated. They cannot continue on with their plans if we will purposely send them our thoughts of love. Neville Goddard tells us in his books about thought transmission that the subconscious transmits thoughts from mind to mind through telepathy. He says that our unexpressed convictions of others are transmitted to them without their conscious knowledge or consent, and if subconsciously accepted by them, will affect their behavior. The only ideas they subconsciously reject are your ideas of them, which they could not wish to be true of anyone. Whatever they could wish for others can be believed of them, and by the law of belief, which governs subjective reasoning, they are compelled to subjectively accept and therefore objectively express accordingly. There must be no conflict in one's mind when they are praying, and we should turn from what is to what ought to be. Then we are to assume the mood of the fulfilled desire. This is all that we ever have to do. We have to know that we ourselves are God, and that we have the power to send our word, and that our word will not return to us void, but will accomplish. But we must believe, because if our belief and our will are in conflict, what we believe will invariably win. Neville also said that it is not what you want that you attract, it is what you believe to be true. I read many times, and I believe it to be true, there is no one to convince but ourselves. The acceptance of the end wills the means. We have to use our imagination. It is the beginning of the growth of all forms. We will only perish if we don't have a vision, a dream. So let's give those Illuminati the silent or absent treatment. When the subject is unaware subjectively of the suggestion that is being given to him, he cannot set up any antagonistic belief that would hinder. So let's keep the Illuminati in ignorance of what is being done for them. Control of the subconscious is dominion over all. Imagination and faith are the secrets of creation. Remember, the world will not change until we change our conception of it. Someone please create a website with names and pictures of those to be prayed for. One thing Neville taught that I have not spoken of it is how that if your fixed idea is not subjectively accepted by the one toward whom it is directed, it rebounds to you from whom it came. The only power to reject a subjective word is to be incapable of wishing a similar state of another. If the enemy is sent love and they reject it, the energy is increased by their own resistance to love, and they will destroy themselves. We need do nothing but really, truly love our enemies.